everybody. My name's Amy Dessenberg-Wines, and I help manage the Iowa Coalition for Integration and Employment. And I really appreciate that you're all joining us today. I apologize that we're meeting virtually. We were hoping that we might be able to meet in person, but it just seemed a little too soon to have a large in-person meeting. So we opted to go ahead and keep this meeting a virtual meeting for the May session. Our hope is that in August, our next meeting is August 25th. We're hoping it can be in person at IVRS in Des Moines. It would be 10 to 3 if we're able to do that. If we will wait till that's a little closer to determine if we are going to do it in person or virtually. If we, excuse me, do it virtually, we'll do 10 to 12:30 again. So we also apologize that we had to do some changing. We were pretty set on our calendar for when we offered the coalition meetings at a really regular sort of every third or fourth Thursday. And then to get the room at Voc Rehab, we had to change it so when we can come back in person, we weren't able to utilize a room there. Gayla helped us look high and low for rooms that would accommodate the numbers that we need, and we had to go back to VR. It was the easiest and offered the most space, so we had to adjust our meeting times. So today for our meeting, I'm really very, very excited to introduce Courtney Ackerson, who is the new HCBS training specialist, and she'll tell us about the work she's doing and the opportunities that are available for all of you to participate and learn more about all kinds of things. And then we're also going to have a policy update. We heard this morning that Brooke Lovelace with Iowa's DD Council is sick, so she's not able to give us a state policy update, but we'll have Julie Christensen, who will be doing a federal policy update. We also are planning on an IVRS update. And Leanne Moskowitz is not able to be with us today, so we will not have a Medicaid update. We will have an MHDS update and an APSI update, and actually hopefully have time for other partner updates, which sometimes in this virtual meeting, we've not been able to get everything in a timely way and not always had enough time for partners to be able to share updates, which is what we would really like to be able to have. So with all that said, here is our agenda for today. We did decide in November to go ahead and do our November meeting virtually. We weren't, because of the Thanksgiving holiday, we weren't able to get the room at VR. And so we went ahead and just went with November 17th and planning to do a virtual meeting for folks. So we also have a share drive. We also have a share drive that we're putting in any presentation materials. Right now, we have Sherry Becker's going to be doing IPS update. Her slides are in that right now. And then as we get presentations, we'll put those in there, and we've put that in the chat. So I am just going to turn it over to you, Courtney. I don't know if you have slides or if you're just going to talk with us.
I will share the website so that people get familiar with the website itself, and but no slides.
Okay, perfect. Take it away, Courtney.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for the introduction and the time today. I really appreciate it. I will share my screen here. So the competency-based training and technical assistance for it's actually long-term services, support services. That's actually worded wrong. Long-term support services. So it's not just HCBS services. It covers a wide array, but most of my training topics have focused on HCBS and habilitation services so far. Part of that reason is that my background is in HCBS services. I used to be an HCBS specialist prior to this job. So I had a lot of resources or people contacts within that realm. So a lot of them have focused on that. Plus, that is a huge focus for Medicaid and a big priority. There are lots of trending topics right now that are hot in HCBS world, and a lot of changes that you're all going through. And so highlighting that, the focus will probably continue to be on HCBS for a while. But some of the trainings that we've done have been general enough that a lot of people in these categories can probably participate and get something out of. So the bullet points here are the services that we cover. And then right below that on the website is the schedule. So this gets updated quite regularly. This site actually has a lot of updates. We changed, I'm sorry, hold on just a second. My dog is going to go nuts, of course.
Those darn coworkers.
Yes, right? The male person goes by and he goes nuts.
Right.
Okay, so the schedule changes regularly and should be pretty updated. Every once in a while, it takes us a few days to get the training down that has just occurred. But the next training that will happen, I'm excited to announce, is it's going to be a virtual experience or a hybrid experience. People will be virtual and in person. So the USAID with Money Follows the Person has had Stacy Lane in the works working on this positive behavior supports training, and we have added to it. So we added the virtual component. So by doing that, we've expanded this training from 100 people in person to adding another 50 positions online. So with that virtual attendance, there's a second registration. So this is kind of a weird scheduled, but I have a feeling that we will have virtual and in-person options for any in-person training that I'm going to coordinate with. So so heads up that will be an opportunity. We also have trainings that are just virtual and you can participate from anywhere. And this title needs to be changed. So, you know, I'm finding edits that need to happen all the time. So sorry about that. It should say positive behavior supports is the title of the training. So it'll have all of our trainings. We'll have training objectives listed, who the trainer will be, intended audience, which helps you kind of narrow down, is this appropriate for us or our staff, or but also know that if the title interests you, please participate, even if you're not listed as an intended audience. And then if you keep scrolling down, we have the technical assistance that will be expanding as well, and benefits for providers of doing these online trainings. But then also we have an archive training site. So before I click on that, I'm also going to highlight on this page, you can enroll for updates to get emails. I haven't even sent my first email yet, so you're not behind if you want to register still. We're keeping track of people who are saying, yes, please email me and let me know of any updates or opportunities. And I'm hoping that looks a little bit like a newsletter, but we're still working all of that out. This archive training site is going to house all of the previous trainings that we're doing. Any training offered will be recorded and put online. All trainings have a competency-based component. So there's a competency quiz at the end. If people choose not to take that quiz and not assess their competency, they won't get a certificate of attendance, but they can still come and participate. They don't have to complete the competency-based test to participate. And then all of these will have the recording and any materials that are offered with them. So the most recent one was this mental health crisis response. We offered it 2 days. It actually doesn't have a PowerPoint that goes with it. It's going to be a handout. But any other materials that were to come with the other 3 just have PowerPoints. We would also include those here. We will also eventually expand the FAQ. So there's a frequently asked questions part of this as well in the center here. The FAQ does not have any links right now, but eventually as questions come in and as we gather information, we'll be able to expand these items, all these bullet pointed items, to have an FAQ should they need it. If there's another topic area that pops up that we need to add additional frequently asked questions, we will. These were just the idea that the department and I came up with to start. Our first training was incident reporting, and that one does have an FAQ that will come. It's just in review currently. So I do get emails every once in a while that still ask for that. It is coming. So hopefully this is, the state is or Medicaid is redoing their websites to kind of make more sense and flow better as well. So you'll see some links change or some pages kind of change to make more sense. And we're trying to not have pages be silos and make sure that they flow between each other. So this site is actually linked on a couple of other pages, and we're hoping that that makes logical sense. But if we see additional pages that need to be linked here, we will. Some of the trainings have been kind of spread across a lot of different pages. Their provider enrollment had some training on its page, so hopefully that will move to this archived training site. We had some old HCBS trainings that were from 2014 and 15, and we hope to update those this year and move those to this training site, and then the archive training eventually as well. So those kind of changes are coming also. Does anybody have any questions or anything about that?
This is Kay Marcel. I have a question. Does the training, it says in the thing, it's for providers and case managers. Does that include the case managers with the MCO?
It does, and they have actually attended, I think almost every training I've done so far. I've had at least 1 or 2 case managers from an MCO attend. I can tell some of them are accessing it after the fact too. I just issued 2 training certificates to an MCO case managers yesterday as well.
Great, thanks.
Yeah. And none of these are required, and agencies may choose to make policies that some of these are required for some part of their work, but the Medicaid is not requiring any of these trainings as any part of any Iowa Administrative Code requirement. It's just that we also know that things are taxing for you guys to find trainings on some of these topics and to make sure that they're updated regularly and still accurate. And so it's nice to have kind of a hub for all of that information. Hopefully I will be the hub. I will expand a little bit on this technical assistance component as well. Let me see. I don't know if we even have anything really listed. Right down here is it's listed twice. We will have an ad that includes technical assistance. We are just working out right now how you can refer yourself for additional technical assistance. What that might look like is if there's a topic that maybe you don't have an HCBS specialist because you're outside of the HCBS world. So you need technical assistance in an area that I can assist in. I'll make sure and get you connected to those people, connected to the right experts in the field, hopefully, or maybe it's somebody within policy that you need connected to. So we'll make sure those connections happen. For those who are in the HCBS waiver world, which I think most of you on this call would be, you will, if it's something that's above and beyond what the HCBS specialist can assist with, or if there's something that you need expanded on that might take more hours or more time than typically an HCBS specialist would take, or maybe it's outside of an Iowa Administrative Code. Maybe you want best practice in some area. Hopefully we'll be able to help with that, and we'll have a referral form on this site. And that work, if you're an HCBS provider, that work will be done with you, like in tandem with your HCBS specialist. So it might be, there's a lot of times where our technical assistance is fairly limited because Iowa Administrative Code isn't very specific in some area. And so this might be a way that you can get a little bit more technical assistance from an expert in the field or some other resource that we've found and can harbor for this purpose.
Brittany, can I throw in, just in case folks aren't familiar, the Department of Human Services put an RFP out for training and technical assistance, and Telegen was awarded that contract. So some of you might be thinking about previously IACP had kind of a sole source contract for training and technical assistance. And the state made that a competitive process. Telegen was awarded that contract. So Courtney is the point person for that work. So it's a state funded contract to provide training and technical assistance. It looks a little different because the state, kind of expanded and modified how it had been done before. So the competency-based training is a component that the state really wanted to be able to offer. So it's a free service. It's a really, really great resource. And, as Courtney's kind of showing us the website and kind of talking about building it up, it's because they're just kind of starting to build up their contract and the work in this area. And so just to add on to what she was saying too, like if you're an organization that would reach out to your specialist with a question, they work within certain parameters that are a little different than what Courtney can work in, as far as trying to give you maybe some additional information that goes beyond just kind of, talking about Iowa code. And so I just really want to encourage folks to utilize Courtney as a resource and to take advantage of this investment that the state's making in trying to help folks understand, how things can work. Sometimes it might be an opportunity to share information with Courtney that she can share back to the state where there might need to be refinement, something that might be a challenge or barrier that they're not aware of. So it's a really great way to work with the state and try to get some additional technical assistance and support and free training, as well as a mechanism to provide information and feedback. And if you're not familiar with this, on the DHS website, any page, we'll share the link in our notes to the webpage that Courtney was showing, but you can sign up for any updates to those pages. Hey, Bill Stump. You can sign up for updates. So anytime she posts something new, hey, Tyler, sorry, I'm just like so happy to see people. You'll get a notice, you'll get an email notice. So you just have to set up an account, which is really simple, and then subscribe to that page. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Courtney, but I should have probably said some of that at the start for folks, just to give them some contextual information about what your role is.
And actually, I'll show you an image of that subscribe thing. The problem with that is it doesn't always work, and we're not sure yet why. Now, we do have a website team who's working specifically on that. Let me think. But it's this down here. It says to subscribe to this page's updates, please log in. And so to do that, you would log in, create a user account. But because that isn't consistently working, that's why we're using this register here, this whole section. So the enrollment for updates, and hopefully those updates I won't do probably even weekly. It'll probably be less frequent than that, but more of like an informational kind of gathering of this is what's new, this is where we're going, probably monthly at first, or maybe every other week, kind of depending on if I have additional information to share. One other part that, as you were talking, Amy, it reminded me that part of my contract is a needs assessment for the LTSS provider population. And so we'll be doing that within the month of June and reporting on that in July. So be aware that there'll be a survey that goes out to providers eventually as well. And I don't have a date that'll be released yet, but that will be going out to get feedback from you. But we've also used the trainings as a mechanism for feedback. There's a feedback survey after every one to make sure that you have input on the topics that are given and all of that. So be aware that that is also coming out. And then I feel like there was something else that Amy said that I wanted to build on. Oh, provider feedback, just that mechanism I am part of my contract is to be able to report back if there are changes to Iowa administrative code needed or recommended in any capacity. So I will be doing some research on that as people give feedback as well. Now there are updates happening regardless of whether or not I give feedback. So please know that does not, sometimes there are things that happen with Iowa administrative code that have nothing to do with the feedback that I've given, but yeah, I will have a little bit of mechanism to share that as well. Any other questions?
If you ever get in the position, Courtney, where you can provide feedback that actually influences Iowa code, that's gold. We want you to come to every coalition meeting.
Well, see, I feel like the changes in 77 that will happen are directly related to the feedback that specialists have been giving for at least the past 2 years, if not longer. So I do feel like I might have some examples of that eventually, but not yet, not until they actually happen. And 79, they'll all be in review. I think they're currently like in review, but I don't know what the whole process is. So I just know they're in review.
I have a question about just a couple things, and I need you to tell me how this fits or not. But I think, Courtney, in our conversations, you've just been really open and interested in any recommendations for areas of training or areas of need as you're kind of building out that schedule. So I think you would be really open to having folks reach out and share, hey, we could really use a training on this or that, or we'd like to see some support here. Is that accurate? I know you mentioned the survey.
Both directions. If you think you're an expert somewhere and you think that your knowledge needs to be shared, I would love to know that as well. But yes, even use the chat right here if you feel comfortable letting us know what areas you want training in. I would be more than happy to collect those. Excuse me, or get them from Amy later if I can't collect them in the chat. But yeah, I mean, give me ideas or send me an email. I'll put my email in the chat as well, the HCBS Training and Technical Assistance email. And keep in mind that as we work this out, I feel like maybe it's more places than just here, but HCBS and LTSS have been kind of interchangeably used where they shouldn't be interchangeably used. But really, I'm working for all of LTSS, but then this email was set up for only HCBS. So please do not let that confuse you. It is all of LTSS services. But there's a lot of things that just list HCBS because it's the bulk of what we do.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And so also just to touch base on this, and I think you just mentioned this, but you're also looking, Courtney, for experts to be presenters on different topics. And so if if any of you feel like there's something that you would like to offer that you think it would be of interest to other stakeholders, I think it's great to feel free to reach out, because I think my sense, Courtney, is that you guys are also very open to, hey, if there's people out there that have some great experience or knowledge that they want to share with others, we'd love to work with them. Is that accurate?
Absolutely. And one of the areas that I'm really looking for experts in is community integration in any way. If you've done something innovative at your agency, or even if you've done something innovative and it didn't work, I would love to chat with you about how you did it, what didn't work, whatever. And I would love to have a panel of providers. We constantly have new providers entering into this field, and we really want to encourage more new providers. And I think what would help is if they heard from current providers on like a panel of, this is what we've done, this is what we've tried, this is what did or didn't work. So I would love to hear that as well. And I'm really looking for innovative employment service things you've done, or I'm trying to think of any other creative. If you also are at a day hab, I'm also looking for creative day habilitation situations. So all of that. But as employment services, I know that some people want to expand and just aren't sure exactly how. We have a couple of providers who are enrolled but not yet providing it. So let's decrease the ambiguity maybe of how to provide those services, and let's help get members served.
Excellent. Do other folks, I see that Heather shared in the chat, and Heather, it's really great to see your face too, that Jess and Heather and I, we worked in Denison as a collaborative with Westco and Denison schools, and really just kind of tried to take a look at where there are opportunities to collaborate and to really work to reach diverse community members in Denison. And there were some really great conversations and efforts and work. We partnered with the school during conferences to get information, brought an interpreter who was also an expert from Ask Resource Center with parents and families to be able to engage with the Latinx population at the conferences. And it was just a really great experience. And I think a wonderful example of how with the coalition and how we're, all partners in trying to kind of work at seeing improved outcomes, how we can collaborate and then even just strategize if we don't know sometimes you don't know what the answer is, or you don't know what it's going to evolve into, but you come together for conversations and working together and trying to then identify, where are there opportunities that we can support one another. And sometimes we have to bring in other experts to do that. But thank you for sharing that, Heather. And it's a really great example. And I think, Courtney, you are somebody who's really open and interested as well in trying to kind of think of how can we collectively, essentially it's how can we collectively work together to see improved outcomes. I know we also have parents and family members and individuals with disabilities who participate in our coalition meetings. And I think that even though we might use the word provider, I think that's I think it's more inclusive to any stakeholders who are supporting family members or individuals or who want to see, need information or want to share information with other folks. So
yeah,
please know that's right.
One of the things that's happening across states is Colorado had this group of, it was providers and parents, but when I say providers, it was like the more known family members that are possibly providers or friends, but it was a small knit groups kind of popped up everywhere, grassroots organization of how to incorporate technology into services. And so parents kind of took the initiative to say, this is what we want for parents and guardians, actually. I'm thinking of the two women who started it were parents, but it was guardians too, and members served as well, teaching their providers how to use technology to best suit their needs. And so things like that, I imagine, hopefully we'll get to branch into. I feel like I've bit off more than I can chew, but I will chew for a really long time to get to what I want to accomplish. But those sort of groups have been neat to hear about, and I think it would be really neat to see some of those in Iowa as well. And if I can support those in any way, I'm more than happy to. But those are just a couple of ideas. So yes, it's more than just when I say providers, it's more than providers, it's guardians, it's these trainings would be very appropriate for anyone who has family members within this population as well. Yeah, and I hope that some of these trainings will also be more, they might not be directed at direct support professionals. It might be more agency building, one of the areas that we're looking at is how to build an effective governing body. It's one of the requirements for certified providers, but we don't have any guidance on how to do that. And so I'm hoping to get in some experts that will talk about how to run a governing body for an organization, what you can and what you can pick and choose from, and how you use that to better the outcomes for your members.
I won't speak for just a minute, but I'm no longer with the school. Yesterday was my very last day after 13 years, but I will be in a couple other schools now. But one of the things that spoke very highly when I left was how we can get these organizations into the schools, because families are screaming for help. And so this is really important. And I will now be working with the AEA, and I will be helping other teachers. So I think the work is really important. And I feel like I can reach more people than what I did before. And so I hope that the AEA continues to allow me, which I think they're going to allow me to continue to be on the coalition. As my previous AEA rep said, she's already kind of nudging them and saying her work on the coalition is going to be more important than what it was before. So I'm very excited to hear what you're doing. I was excited when I heard what you said, because I was like, I was involved in a project like this. So if I can be of any assistance, if I can share what we did, I still have the notes, please let me know.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Heather. Any other questions or comments for Courtney? Feel free to just unmute, or you can put things in the chat if you'd like. All right. Well, I think, Courtney, you're going to stay around for the meeting. So if something comes up, feel free to throw it in the chat and we'll bring it up at any point in the meeting. Also, feel free to put suggestions or ideas or comments that you want to share with Courtney in the chat, and we'll make sure that we get them to her after the meeting if she doesn't catch them during the meeting. So, Courtney, thank you so much for coming today and for sharing a little bit about what you're doing. We're very excited to partner with you, and we're excited to see the work that you're doing. We really appreciate that you're making yourself available for folks, and we can always use help in deciphering what some of those things mean. So thank you.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so we have a little bit of change in our agenda. If folks weren't on right away with the meeting, we had a few folks who were not able to be here today that had planned to be here. One of those individuals is Brooke Lovelace, who was sick all night, she said, and just wasn't able to be here. So one of the things I wanted to just share that Brooke mentioned when she reached out to us was that if you're not part of the DD Council's Capital Chat sessions, they're fabulous. They meet, I believe it's monthly. Some of you guys might know better, but yesterday was a session. They record those. We will share the link with everybody. And Bill with the DD Council and Amy Campbell, they do an amazing job of really trying to take sometimes things that seem kind of complex and break it down to here's really sort of what this means. The legislative session just wrapped up this week, and so they were able to give us kind of an update on where things landed. There were a lot of things that were sent to the governor, budgets. I don't know if there's other things, Bill, you probably know this better than I do, but that haven't been signed necessarily yet. So there's still some things that are kind of up in the air, but there is a little bit more information because the session actually ended. So we will share the Capital Chat link with folks. So I would really encourage you to, if you're interested in the state update, it's a great place to get some really good information and kind of a summary of where we landed with the session. One of the things they mentioned for some of the bills that didn't move forward, that people really were maybe hopeful would move forward, that even if they didn't move forward this session, it doesn't mean that they won't be reintroduced in the next session. And so really thinking about those opportunities to connect with your senators and representatives before the next session to really talk about those things that are important to you is really critical. And I know not everybody is comfortable with that. So there's a lot of great support out there to help you navigate and figure out if you know what you want or you know what you'd like to talk about, even if you aren't quite sure how that works, there's a lot of support to do that. So you can let us know. The council's a great resource. Mr. Bill Stump, who's been a long time coalition member, is a perfect example of somebody who has really, he and his son Kyle have really engaged a lot at the state and, well, I think at the local, at the state and the national level in articulating what you want to see and what's important. I don't know, Bill, if you have anything you want to add about that, but.
You're trying to make me cry. I will say I'm a little bit out of it today because I am recovering from COVID. Not only did I have a great trip to Hawaii, but I brought that back as a souvenir apparently, and not exactly what I wanted to. But let me tell you that brain fog is real. If anybody has any doubts, and that's the only thing I'm struggling with still. I'm negative now, so I'm grateful for that. And Kyle remained negative, so I didn't share it with him. I want to echo what you said about the Capitol Chat, and I know Brooke's not here. They're amazing, and a while back I was able to kind of tip the DD Council off on some legislation on guardianship conservatorship that was coming up again, where they really want to go back to the old way and simplify things. That puts protected persons at risk. It's actually, I'll be honest, spearheaded by probate lawyers that just don't want to do the work, and they're charging people a lot of money to do this. You don't need a lawyer to do your reports. You just don't. I'm not a lawyer. You just don't need it. I think we need a resource center and some training is what we need. But been working on that. So they were able, they let me come on the Capitol Chat one day and talk about it, which was great. And then I testified at a subcommittee hearing, and Amy came, and actually my state senator and my state rep came, and so to support and just to get it out there how family members might think. And if anybody wants to know any more about that, contact me, because it's concerning. It didn't go through. It passed through the House, the changes that will be devastating, I think, and went to the Senate, but they never got to it. So again, as you said, Amy, that will probably come back next year. And so it's concerning to me. It's concerning to me on behalf of protected persons. So, but thank you, and just kind of stay tuned. But Capitol Chat does an amazing job, and so they highlighted that for us, and it was one of those things that falls underneath the radar, because it's not a real popular thing necessarily with a lot of people, where they just don't know about it. So that's my spiel. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. I'm sorry that you had COVID. I hope you feel better soon. And so if you don't mind, Bill, if we could put your contact information in the notes for folks, then you could feel free to reach out to Bill. Maybe as well, Bill, we could slate you, if you're open to this, we could put this on our agenda for the August meeting to talk about.
Perfect. And let me do a little work on that, because I've been on this issue, collaborating with Josie Gittler, who is a law professor at the University of Iowa. She's kind of taken me under her wing. I don't know if she knows what she's in for, but she's been amazing and educated me a lot on this. And we just talked a few days ago, and what we're talking about is trying to connect with organizations that can get this word out to folks and educate them on the topic, because you know, folks are saying it's onerous to fill out the forms. Well, yeah, they're lengthy forms, but it's information that guardians really should have, and it should be a little bit difficult. I mean, instead of before you'd have to do like one page. Yeah, I did this, I did that. Well, now it's a care plan that says, what am I going to do moving forward? So if you don't do what you say you're going to do, then they have something to come back and say, why didn't you do it? And so it's really, the bottom line is looking out for protected persons. And but yeah, I could talk to Josie, and maybe we could sort of do she might be open to, you know, participating as well.
That'd be great.
I'm glad to do that.
Thank you, Bill. We'll be in contact with you to kind of figure out what would help support you in sharing stuff on that, and how that might work. Do we have Julie Christensen on yet? I don't know if Julie's on yet. So, okay, thank you. So, oh, I wanted to make a couple other announcements for the DD Council, just because I think Brooke was going to talk about that, but I did see that they just shared a direct support professional survey that they sent out, so we can forward that. I think I just got that yesterday. We can forward that out to folks. I think right now, I don't know what the survey questions are, but I do think that many of us are really interested in understanding as much as we can about the issues and challenges that folks are experiencing with the workforce shortage crisis. And so we can share that. Please feel free to send that out to anyone else who you think might be interested in sharing input. The value of participating in those kinds of things, like with the DD Council, is, or any entity, but is that the DD Council makes decisions about the focus of their work and what they're going to invest in. They have resources and funding that they invest. And so the more you can help shape what you see as the issues and the needs, the better those investments can be, I think. So we will share that. I know that the council was also looking and trying to recruit new council members. Also a really important thing. There were 3 entities I was going to put a plug in today to really encourage you to think about, or if there's others that you know about, to think about pursuing, trying to be a representative in these 3 different groups that need really good members right now. And so the council is looking for members. They have certain requirements, as do all of the state commissions or boards, around a balance of representation, both politically. In the council, you need at least a minimum of 50% of individuals with disabilities, certain number of parents and family members, and then other representatives. But there's always sort of room, typically on the boards, that if you don't fall in that category, but you have a real interest, that you may still fit. So if again, kind of the importance of that is that the council does a lot to really direct where are we going to focus our work and the resources that come in to support the DD Council's work, where we're going to direct that. So I served on the council for 6 years. It was a great experience. You can make great connections with a lot of other folks, but you really do influence what happens in the state. And so, excuse me, I'd encourage you to take a look at that. We can share information about how folks can apply to be on the council. The other 2 boards, just while we're talking about this, we also have IVRS. They're looking for state rehab council members. And I know I shared this with the coalition. We'll also put it in the notes again. And I put the application in the share drive for this meeting as well. They need members and so again, if you're interested and feel like you have something you'd like to offer, it's a great way to work with IVRS and share information and give input that might help shape their services, their policies, at least inform and guide. And I know that they have a lot of respect for the SRC and what those SRC members share with them at those meetings. They take very seriously. And then the third is the Olmstead Task Force. And the Olmstead Task Force is also a really, really important advisory group. As a state that is undergoing a Department of Justice investigation for our resource centers, the Olmstead Task Force it's an advisory council, but it is a great way to bring questions and concerns and support and recommendations forward to the state. And if folks aren't familiar with this, under the Department of Justice investigation right now, that falls under the ADA and Olmstead. So the Olmstead Task Force is a really great advisory group for the state, and we will share information as well. They're taking applications right now for new members. So we'll share all those opportunities. Please share those out as well. And I don't know, Mari, you were gonna, I know Mari was registered, Mari Reynolds. Mari, are you in the meeting today?
I am. Hi.
I know, Mari, you are on the SRC and Olmstead Task Force. Is there anything you would like, and you've probably been on the council, but would you like to put any plugs in from your perspective?
I was just digging up the links to try to make it easy for people to get there. You know, they're both great groups. We definitely need more representatives from lots of different perspectives, and we definitely appreciate providers really in both groups. It's you know, they're both really important work, and so yeah, anybody that's interested, we're looking for, you know, family members, providers, you know, people with lived experience, all kinds of different roles. So if you guys know of anybody that might be interested in it, you really don't need to have a high level of knowledge in any particular, you know, area. There's a learning curve for sure, but we will try our best to, you know, work with folks to make it, you know, understandable. And so, yeah, that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mari. And thank you for, you know, Mari's been a really fabulous member of both the SRC and Olmstead, and really takes some leadership role, as well as I saw Darren was on Darren Richardson with VODAC is on the in the meeting, and he as well. And so I want to thank them, and I want to support them by getting additional folks who will contribute to the work. So
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. Well, because we don't have Julie yet, could Vienna, would it be a good time to ask for an IVRS update? Would you be all right with that?
Sure, I can jump in. So there's really not much from the last time that I probably provided updates, but that's probably been a while. And I apologize, I am not ready today. So I'll just kind of wing it in terms of what we've been working on. I've been working with the IME workforce shortage work group. I think I said it correctly. It is ran by Leanne Moskowitz out of IME to address what both rehab and IME can do collaboratively to address that issue. I think that we have learned some things and have began implementing things like looking at the documentation and streamlining that process so that providers do not have to utilize more forms than they have to update the funders on the services that our CRP partners are providing. Another thing that we are looking at is also to continue the streamlining process of credentialing and training that is required, and the process that interested providers have to go through to be eligible to provide services for both IME and both rehab. So those are just a couple of examples of things that we are working together to streamline efforts, and the hope is that we are helping our partnering CRPs with the workforce shortage issues. We are also continuing to do customized discovery, IPS, those programs have been rolling out statewide since October. The workforce shortage has significantly impacted service delivery, and we understand that. And we're working with our providers to, you know, all we can do is the best that we can, and it has definitely been really difficult on our providers. They have had to shift some of the dedicated staff who were providing customized discovery or IPS to cover other service area needs that their agencies had. So it's been really, really tough for them. We are looking into the independent job coaching services and expanding it to independent providers so that they are also able to provide supports in terms of job development and not just support employment services, which is job coaching. Just really looking into how we can build some in-house support so that while our CRP partners are experiencing some workforce shortage issues, many of our staff have taken on those direct services. And so we're looking to see how independent providers can also make an impact as well, so that we can also continue to handle the caseloads that we handle. If you are not familiar with what we have, our staff handle an average of about 120 caseloads per person. So, and doing direct services on top of it as well is, it's not going to work. One's got to give, right? So, so we're looking into those independent providers to be able to do those direct services. We're looking into starting up some internship programs for direct service providers, and also looking into virtual services as well. The last thing I think I can talk about a little bit is the Disability Innovation Funds grant that RSA announced. Oh gosh, I can't remember the specific date that they announced it. It was probably about 6 to 7 weeks ago that they officially posted it, and we have been working diligently to figure out really something that is considered innovative by that grant's requirements. And we've met with some key stakeholders and partners who have really been instrumental and is going to be really instrumental if this is going to happen. The application is due on June 21st. In making this happen,
Say the acronym again. There was static or something going on. I heard individualized.
individual placements and supports.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. IPS is a evidence-based program that that focuses on providing employment support services for individuals with significant mental health diagnosis. And it is available in our eastern and northwestern part of our state, as well as our southern eastern side of our state. There's about, I shouldn't say there's about, there are 5 providers total. And they are Hope Haven Area Development Center, Hope Haven Rock Valley, 43 North Iowa, Robert Young Center, and Vera French. Those are our 5 providers that are providing IPS at this time. Over last summer, we had put out our IME had put out an RFP statewide for providers to apply for TA and startup to provide IPS across the state. And at the beginning of the fiscal year, October of 21, the programs started. We had the 3 applicants, which was Vera French, Robert Young, and Hope Haven Area Development Center, that were approved. The hope was to get 2 or 3 providers to start up this first year, in addition to 43 North Iowa and Hope Haven Rock Valley that was already providing IPS prior to 2021. And so the hope is that we continue to add more providers, at least 1 to 2 more providers each year, and in parts that do not have IPS at the time. The programs are just wonderful in terms of impacting this specific target group, because there's never really been an evidence-based program that would specifically address this specific target group that has always been really difficult with employment placement for them. Just to give you a little background of what IPS is.
Thanks, Vienna. We also have Sherry Becker today, who's going to give an update. So that's perfect for building kind of some background for folks. And then if folks have additional questions for Vienna or for Sherry, you'll have an opportunity today to kind of ask some of those questions, because we really want people to know a lot more about it as we're starting to try to get it built in Iowa, and what it is and what it does. And so thank you very much. Any questions or comments for Vienna? One of the things I wanted to just throw out there, because we have such great partners who are here today, that if Voc Rehab decides to put an application in for what we reference as the DIF grant, the focus of that work is really to support individuals who are either in sub-minimum wage, or are maybe they have been previously, or they're likely to be directed towards sub-minimum wage, the efforts to support individuals going into competitive integrated employment. And it's really quite a large systems change opportunity, much like our grant that started the Iowa Coalition. And we know that there are a number of pieces of complexity around trying to support individuals and providers and parents and families and all the stakeholders that are part of making that happen. And I would encourage, because we have such good representation today in the coalition meeting, I would just encourage, if you have any comments around things that you would want to see addressed. It can be just very brief, like maybe it's establishing services in areas where there aren't services, or Maybe it maybe you're a provider and you have a comment about something you think would be helpful to address your workforce shortage, or if you're an individual or a parent or family, what are the questions or concerns you might have, you know, that you would kind of want to see considered. And that would all be part of the work, if it's done, is getting cross stakeholders, much like what the coalition is, to engage in those conversations and to craft and refine what needs to happen to improve outcomes and to support all the pieces to make that happen and make it meaningful for individuals. So we're not really talking about somebody leaving sub-minimum wage where they might work full-time to going into a community job for a couple hours a week. That doesn't serve anyone real well. It's really about how can we actually support individuals in a livable area of employment that matches their skills, their interests, their abilities, their contributions, and what could that look like? So I just encourage you, you know, now's a really good opportunity. If you have comments, you can email them to us, you can put them in the chat. When we get to the end of the meeting, if we have time and people want to have conversations, now's a good time to provide some input just in that period where the application might be crafted. So thank you. All right. Sherry Becker, would you be available to jump in and do your update?
Amy, I think she was going to message when she was available. She was maybe popping in on another thing.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay.
so she might not be back yet.
No problem. Nicole Erickson, would you want to do a ICIE update?
Funny that you mentioned that.
Perfect timing. You got it, Misty.
Actually, I just saw the email come through. You gotta love technology. I'm like, wait, Nicole just messaged me. I'll do my best. Unless
Okay,
Nicole,
Missy, I can do it really quick. Perfect timing.
Okay, cool. Perfect timing.
Yep, I was just going to share for the Iowa ICIE update that our conference is coming up September 27th and 28th at the Sheraton in West Des Moines. We have confirmed Judy Worth from the USED is going to be the presenter at our pre-conference, and she will be presenting on transition. So we're really excited about that. And our board continues to get our lineup of speakers and all of the marketing out. So follow us on Facebook and for live updates, and we hope to see everybody there.
Nicole, I'm sorry, did the date change? Because I thought it was 28th, 29th, not.
You know what? I was in a rush, Vienna. You're probably right. It's 28th and 29th. Thank you.
Watch your emails, just to kind of piggyback off Nicole's. Watch your emails, because we'll send out updates and blasts, and be ready, because we're going to be marketing the crap out of this conference. So be ready. Watch for it.
I think there's a DAHAB survey too, ladies. Is that right? Can you help me with that information, and I'll put the link in the chat. Does that ring a bell? I know there was I think there was a survey that went out to members specific to DAHAB, possibly.
There was. It came through yesterday, Jess. I'll send it over to you.
I got that. Perfect. Perfect. Is there any additional context on that for folks? I'm sorry, I don't know which team was working on that.
I am not sure off the top of my head either, as far as specifics, but I'll get you the link and people can take a look.
Tyler just dropped it in there for us. Thanks so much, Tyler.
Tyler's on it.
You're the man. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't think we have Julie Christensen yet, do we? I don't see Julie yet. So, and if Sherry Becker going once, I think Sherry, her name is up, but I think maybe she's not available to do the presentation. So Leanne Moskowitz is not able to be here today. So our Medicaid update, if we don't have a Medicaid update, there is a couple things that I wanted to share, excuse me, which is I know that Medicaid is going to be posting soon the state transition plan, and we'll have, I think it's a month, Courtney, you probably know this better than I do, but a month for public comment before it will be submitted to CMS. And so I know that they would love folks who are interested to take a look at that and share any thoughts. And that should be posted pretty soon, I think. And so it'll be right away. I don't know that I'm supposed to talk about this. So I hope no one watches this recording. But I know that Medicaid had some ARPA dollars that were unexpended around the recruitment and retention area for providers. And when they first rolled those out to make available for providers, there was a list of services that individuals, providers could apply for, but some services were not included because of the concern that there may not be adequate resources, I believe. So because there is some additional funding there that wasn't utilized by providers who in the first two rounds, they, I believe, are exploring right now expanding the types of services that would then be eligible for those funds, which would then also include employment services, which were not previously included in the recruitment and retention grants. So we'll share more information when that's available, but hopefully that's good news to the employment service providers who weren't able to access some of that funding to help support recruitment and retention efforts. I know there are other service areas as well. That was just one of the areas. Other partner updates or comments or questions that folks want to share, we're just going to open it up right now, and then we will see if our other two presenters are able to jump on.
Amy, can I take the platform for a couple of things I would like to say? I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
Because when you said recruitment and retention, it reminded me of the Mental Health Planning Council that I sit on. One of the things when Amy talked about recruitment and retention, and then talking about ICIE in terms of mental health, the Mental Health Planning Council is also in need of parents or individuals with mental health diagnosis to sit on their board. And so I just wanted to reach out and let you all know if you know of anyone or parents of individuals or children with SED, those types of diagnoses. Please consider sitting on the Mental Health Planning Council board to be a voice for those individuals. And we have seats open. So I'd really encourage you, if you know anyone or if you are anyone sitting on the ICIE council here, to consider doing that, and let me know, and I can send you the application forms and all that great stuff as well. The other thing that I wanted to touch on is the Glenwood Resource Center. They, as you all know, they are currently in the process of transitioning out because of the 2-year period that they are in the process of closing down. And so right now they have already begun transitioning residents out into the community and different places in the state. And so VR has seen a huge influx of referrals from the Glenwood Resource Center. And these are residents who have super high needs in terms of supports. And so we're in the process of trying to figure out how to, I don't know what's the best way of describing it. We're in a situation where we're in a bottleneck issue where we've got an influx of referrals, and our service providers are facing the situation that I was just describing in terms of workforce shortage and all that good stuff. And so what VR has done is, and I want to say thank you very much to Tyler for getting this ball rolling. But we've got a team that is actually was planning on meeting this afternoon, but I think we're going to meet on the DIF grant instead, I think. But anyways, but we've got a team that, and I just wanted to share this because I know that a lot of providers are getting referrals from VR to say, hey, can you help us serve XYZ individual? Some of the things that we are facing right now is that providers, because of various issues, are not able to or have been refusing to work with us to provide services for these specific individuals. And it's for various reasons, right? And so we're trying to figure out, okay, what are we going to do? And so that's what this team is about that we've got together. And I bring this up again, if you have any suggestions or recommendations that you would like me to bring up in this team so that we can, especially if you have solutions, that would be even better. But we're definitely on that ball in terms of getting some teams together from IME to Money Follows the Person, and I believe we've got a couple of CRPs involved as well. And so just trying to see how we address the Glenwood Resource Center issue as well. So.
I'm going to just tag on to that, Vienna. I think, the team it's great that we're having these conversations and brainstorming, but it really does ultimately take a village. It takes the CRPs, it takes all of us working together. So, we can come up with these ideas, but ultimately you see the CRPs that are working with these, individuals, capacity isn't, an issue right now. So trying to figure out ways that we can work together to create, opportunities for these individuals that are transitioning out of Glenwood. And ultimately we got the Glenwood people moving, and then we got other ICFs and other facility settings that people are moving out of. So there's going to be a lot, riding on these next 2 years. So we'd like to work together best that we can. And I think the time is now to start the conversation so we can work ahead of the task instead of everybody feeling swamped and overloaded by what's to come.
Thank you, Tyler. Thank you, Vienna. I just want to reiterate that, the more folks can share around either issues or suggestions, because right now I think we're kind of I think we've been in an unusual time now for a good few years, but I think it just sort of keeps compounding. I think we're all very interested in wanting to support individuals to have the opportunity to live and work and be part of their communities, and trying to find what are those important pieces that we need to pay attention to, and try to help address or unpack. And we may not have the solutions, but it is going to take all of us to figure out how to make that work. And I feel like people have the right, to live in the community. And just because we don't have all the supports in place, it's really up to all of us to figure that out. And so the more you can kind of share around, I think everybody here wants to see people be successful, and you all play a really important role in that. And so the more we can kind of come together to really then say, okay, here's something we haven't figured out. You know, where are we gonna build community supports in those communities that are lacking, for example, to support the individuals to be able to live in that community and have what they need from a healthcare standpoint, from an employment standpoint, you know, from just a supported community living standpoint, whatever it is. So I encourage all of you, even if you feel like you don't maybe know all the ins and outs of the issues, we need all your voices. We need all your suggestions, because we want to see this for folks. I'm really afraid from a timing standpoint with the transition and Glenwood closing, that we have an opportunity right now. And even if it's not ideal, because there's a workforce shortage and because we're still dealing with a pandemic, and because, you know, there's lots and lots of pieces of this. I'm afraid that if we don't come together to do everything we can, that it will just be another reason to say, oh, see, it can't work. Folks can't live in the community, when it really isn't about that. It's about trying to find the right and making sure the right supports are available. So we might have to get really innovative and really creative and figure out what is it going to take? What is it? Maybe we have to do it really differently. Bill, I see your hand up. Please jump in.
Okay, got me started. Sorry, but I just, and I think most of the folks in this group are probably preaching to the choir a little bit. I am probably, but if you're living in a box, get out of that box. Think outside the box, because quite frankly, my son Kyle is employed because somebody encouraged me to think outside the box, Amy. And with respect to workforce shortage, okay, Kyle's actually a benefit of that right now, because his boss called me 2 weeks ago, and every time his boss calls me, I start getting nervous, thinking, oh my gosh, what I gotta. My fault is thinking negative, that it's going to be negative, and it wasn't. It was very positive, because he can't find people to work on the weekends, and he said, we need Kyle to work more hours, and you know, and job coach or not, you know, and so he's doing it on the weekends without the job coach, and it's because he's needed. And so talk to your neighbors, talk to employers. Folks with disabilities can fill those voids, and you know, they can, and oftentimes accommodations are not that difficult. In fact, I think I've seen it written somewhere that most accommodations are pretty easily accomplished. And so just my little spiel, but thank you.
Great news, Bill. Thank you. Do we have other updates or things folks
Eva
want
wants
to
to
share?
share something.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
No, it's okay. I think Eva raised her hand. I think Eva might want to share, possibly.
Possibly,
Eva.
right? Yeah, go Eva. So I just want to kind of echo what Bill was talking about there. I mean, I think as a supported employment provider for many years, and recently onboarding with IPS and customized discovery, we had to assess what our community needed. And we have to do that more now than ever, because obviously workforce and capitalizing on individuals that can really fit into those employment needs, and how we can, you know, transform that and look, you know, make that impact and meet those needs. But just that we're serving different individuals now. And so we have to change. We have to be looking at, you know, what our needs are as far as the community and across the state, and how we can serve individuals at all different levels. And I think disability looks different than it did. Obviously, I've been in here for 19 years, so it looks different. And but it's okay, and we can still do the same great work. We just got to think outside the box. So I just can't echo that enough, Bill.
Thank you, Eva. You're still a babe. You're a babe, but you're still a baby. You go 19 years, I go 40.
Right? I know. But we may have someone that's on this call that's 5, you know? I mean, there's somebody younger, right? Bringing it up. Fun.
Amy, you may say they're a babe, but like in terms of employment support services, masterclass training, I would love to bottle Eva up in a bottle and on doing something like that.
Oh,
She would be a master class. You know how that you see those master class thingy online and stuff like that? She would be wonderful for that.
Absolutely. Thank you. Bill? Nope, you're a thumbs up, not a hands up. I get confused on my emojis. Other folks who have any comments, feel free to just unmute and share anything. Sherry Becker, do we have you yet? Nope, not yet. What about Julie Christensen? All right.
I'll just put a plug in, Amy. The MFP Partners meeting is on June 22nd at the Lions Club in Johnston. So I can put a link out there if anybody's interested in attending. It's a quick Qualtrics survey, just an update on how MFP's been going, a little probably update on Glenwood, and then just kind of some of the things that they've been attacking over the last year.
Oh, that's great. Thanks, Tyler. Darren, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, I've been listening to everything, and I just want to remind everybody that we, like Eva and probably a lot of other providers, are looking at shortages, especially for those of us that have residential programs, group homes, services that require more of a 24-hour presence. One of the things that I think that we can all agree on, and hopefully you can join us, is any way to, show that our DSP staff are valued, that this is a great career. And, we used to say, you're not going to get rich doing this, but you know what? They should be able to make as much as they do at fast food places and, other places. It's almost getting to the point, and it's success, but sometimes it's rare, but you will have a job coach placing someone that might be making as much or more as the job coach. And we are limited in what we can pay. It's not like, back in my restaurant days, if I needed to raise the price of tomatoes, I could just raise them to, increase wages. So the only thing that we have short of, keep hammering away at the legislature to get more funding for all providers, also we can pay DSPs what they're worth, is just to really, as you interact with DSPs, and that, make sure that that they're appreciated, that they're doing the best they can. And we have people that, and I'm sure all this Bodec isn't alone, but we have people that are going way above and beyond to make sure things are covered, that are, in some cases, holding things together as best they can. And I think that any way that we can show our appreciation for DSPs, just as a group, as a community, I think would go a long way. What that would be, I don't know. But even if you're working with the DSP, just let them know that they're appreciated, that they are essential workers, and that we're really thankful to have them.
Darren, thank you so much for that. I think that's a really important part that we don't always think about. We know they're underpaid, but even just, looking at that appreciation and the value and the importance of their role. But thank you for sharing those comments, and Melissa as well for echoing what Darren was saying. Sherry, I'm sorry, but we were hassling you, and I know you were trying to get here as soon as you could. we had some speakers cancel, so we're just like ahead of the game, and I truly am lost if we're not behind. So,
Oh, and so you guys are just hanging on, and now I hope this is, yeah. There's a lot of pressure on me now.
well, just to let you know, Vienna talked a little bit about IPS, and Kay wanted to know more. Kay Marcel wanted to know more about what IPS was, and so it really is great timing because Vienna talked a little bit, but I thought, wow, Sherry's going to have an opportunity as well to kind of just share with everybody a little bit more about, kind of what it is and where we're at right now with the work. But Sherry, what would work for you? I know you have a few slides. Do you want to share them, or do you want me to share them?
Sure, I can. If you just, if I can just share my screen. I want to say hi to everybody. I love seeing all these names on the screen and people that I haven't seen for a long time. I mean, it's just such a pleasure to be with all of you. So I'll just give my little presentation. And then if you want to know more, I talk about IPS through it, but I'm always available to people. And so at the end of the presentation, I have my email. Again, Amy is really part of the leadership team. She knows a lot about IPS as well. So she's always available. I'm sure I'm offering you up, Amy. Anyway, okay.
I want to introduce you, Sherry.
Okay.
I mean, I hope most of you know Sherry, but if you don't, today is your lucky day. Sherry is a bright, shining, lovely presence in our world. And Sherry used to be the executive director of 43 North Iowa, formerly NIVIC. And she retired, I don't know, for a whole, few minutes before we all then said, Sherry. So as she talks about IPS, 43 North Iowa, as well as Hope Haven, Rock Valley, were very instrumental with their MHDS regions in really bringing IPS to Iowa and getting it set up. And then the state, as it started to work with the Aspire program, or is it Voice, what's it called now? Anyway, to build on that effort and try to expand in Iowa. So Sherry now is Iowa's IPS. I don't know your official title, Sherry, but she agreed to work part-time for the USED as our IPS trainer and fidelity reviewer. So the first Iowa trainer fidelity reviewer for IPS. We are so delighted that she was willing to do that. And I'm going to turn it over to you now, Sherry.
Okay, can they see my screen yet? Amy, can you see my screen?
Whoops, sorry, not yet.
Okay. Have you turned over sharing to me?
I did. I thought I did. Let me just double
Okay, we
check.
might have to have you do this if it's not going to work. Just a second. Let me go back to my Zoom. Well, no. Okay, Amy, do you want to just share my slides?
Betcha.
And we'll just do it together, and then I'll just tell you when. I don't know if I don't really know what I'm doing, I don't think. Okay, here, maybe I can do it now. Just a second here.
Okay.
Are you doing it or am I doing it?
I'm going to see if you can do it.
Okay. Well. Okay.
Yeah.
There we go.
Bingo.
We can see it, Sherry.
You can? Okay, now I can't see it. Great. Okay, you still can see it?
We can.
Okay.
Do you want me to do it so you can see?
Well, here's the thing. No, I'll just go for it. So despite the weather we're having in North Iowa, I chose this very cool PowerPoint presentation called Road Trip. I think summer conjures up for many of us doing something on the road. And so I I think it's just really fun too. And it was kind of fun for me to mess around with yesterday. So I really am, as I said, delighted to be here to share this update about the expansion of IPS in Iowa. Like everybody on this call and in the coalition, I'm a champion for employment. And anecdotally, in my gut, I knew that employment was a powerful strategy in building quality lives and building inclusive communities. But I didn't have as much evidence as I wanted, besides all the people I'd met and my own personal experiences. And that's the difference between IPS and traditional supported employment. I'll talk about that a little more in a minute. Let's just see if this advances. Did that work? Does it? Okay. Amy, do you want to just do it? It should say the journey so far now.
Bet.
Maybe this is it. Are you guys getting it now?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Now.
Okay. So just like you, I'd met so many people in my career who reported that employment was important and that it changed their life. Personally, I have 3 kids. I always tried to stay home with them. It never stuck for me. I always went back to work because I felt isolated. I felt undervalued. Work did a lot for me that being a full-time mom did not. And I'm not putting that down for anybody that it works for. It just didn't work for me, right? I also grew up in a family of 5 kids, and my parents gave us a strong work ethic from the very beginning. My dad had a heart attack when I was a little kid, 8 years old. And so he didn't work for a while. And I was the head of my mom's church cleaning crew, because she took a job at our church, cleaning the church, Anyway, I still hate to vacuum and have a cleaning lady to this day, because I really don't appreciate having to do a vacuum, because I was the oldest kid and I always had to vacuum everywhere at church. Anyway, so there's a lot of reasons that my life led me to where I'm at. So I did, as Amy said, I unretired. I just learned that verb on NPR this week, unretired. So I unretired and I came back to doing this. I missed all of you. I missed employment. I missed having something to do beyond my everyday internal life, which I value very much, but I get something from working. I don't know why it took me so long to learn about IPS. Did the screen move, everybody? Okay, good. But it's really so great. What I've found is that IPS is an evidence-based practice that has a lot of research behind it that validates the careers we've all had for many, many years in employment, right? It's out there. They have research that Gary Bond does extensively that says, yes, IPS is important to recovery. And this quote that you see by Dr. Robert Drake, you've seen many places, but he's a very impressive man. He's the one, he and his wife, Deborah Becker, really launched IPS and really formulated the Fidelity scale and all the things around that. And they're not ivory tower people, right? Like, yeah, he's a psychiatrist. There's big researchers, but these are people that a few of us, 5 of us went to the conference in Detroit this year, and they were there right alongside us, talking to us, hanging with us. It was really inspirational. So the quote says, nothing I have studied has the same kind of impact on people that employment does. Medication, case management, and psychotherapies tend to produce a small impact on people's overall adjustment, but the differences are often more striking and dramatic with employment. It's a big deal. So in talking about IPS, those of us who've done employment a long time, who've been champions of supported employment, when they start talking about IPS being so different than traditional supported employment, we can bristle a little, right? Because we were like proud of the work we've been doing for a long time. There are differences, but the big difference are the 3 things that I've tried to bold on this screen. Okay, so rapid job search. Okay, to make IPS happen, there has to be a lot of changes within provider rules, within voc rehab, within the integrated health home teams. Because if you want a person from the beginning of service within 30 days to have contact with an employer, That doesn't always happen, right? I mean, Vienna doesn't typically voc rehab 60 days, have 60 days to make a eligibility determination. I think so. Yeah. Yeah. So think about it. So a lot of people had to come together in Iowa to sort of turn our normal practices on their ear and expedite everything to make that happen. And I do believe that rapid job search is important. Again, anecdotally, I know that we used to have people referred to us and everything, gathering the information, setting an intake, having a team meeting, all the things that had to happen. We lost some people along the way because they were motivated on the day they wanted to go to work. And by the time we got around to making everything happen, they were missing in action just because they lost their motivation. They lost their feelings of hope around work, and we didn't move fast enough. So that's one of the Fidelity components. Another one that's really important to IPS is integrated services. We've all tried to have interdisciplinary teams that are highly integrated, but integrated for IPS means something else, and integrated with mental health, because IPS is research-based for people with mental illness. So it's a supported employment model for people with mental illness. It's being applied to youth, people with intellectual disability. It's being applied to people in the Justice Department, all kinds of other places. But basically, and what we're starting with in Iowa is people with mental health issues. So the integrated services are that employment specialists are not only collaborating, but they're integrated, they're co-located, case files are shared. They're in on the mental health weekly treatment meetings so they can weigh in on employment and on future referrals. So it's a part that's not easy for us to play off in Iowa, but we're working on it, right? The next one that's really different is zero exclusion. So many of us as employment providers have intake criteria. And one that's fairly common, I would say, throughout the country is a person cannot be a safety threat to self or others, right? So a lot of people who aren't compliant with their mental health treatment plan, or if people are using drugs and other illegal substances, we would say, oh, you have to get yourself sober or clean first, and then we'll help you find a job. IPS says no. There's a lot of people out there working who are making it every day, even though they're using illegal substances, even though they're not sober. And what we have to do is start with employment, and then those other things, there's actually evidence to show those other things come along, right? Like they do better in their recovery from substance use. They do better in their mental health recovery because they have a job. And we sort of, it's putting everything we did for a long time on its ear, right? And it doesn't mean it's easy for an employment specialist to find a job for somebody who's using, but there's still a lot of businesses who don't drug test. And maybe if you drink too much at night, you better not go to work in the afternoon because you have to get yourself up and around in the morning, right? So those are the bigger differences, but these are the 8 basic principles of IPS. Okay. All right, I really have to apologize that I don't have a very large pictorial gallery to pick from these days, but Eva's team, Amanda and Eva, made sure I had a couple real funny pictures from when I was in Burlington. And I also have a picture of the group with Deborah Becker and Dr. Drake in Detroit. So those are my pictures, but please know that when I'm out there, I'm starting to take a lot of pictures. So I like PowerPoints and I like pictures of people we know and love. And so that's what's going to happen here. So Iowa currently has 5 IPS sites. Amy mentioned Hope Haven, Rock Valley, and 43 North Iowa. The other 2 were, we have Vera French in Davenport. In Davenport, we also have the Robert Young Center that's part of Unity Point. And we also have, of course, the team in Burlington at Hope Haven Developmental Center. So 3 of those sites were launched in employment agencies or from the employment folks in their agency, and 2 are in mental health agencies. And you can imagine the integration with mental health should be somewhat easier for the community mental health centers, but it's harder for them to embrace the whole, my agency's all about it. Oh, excuse me. All right. Anyway, should I just keep going, Amy? Yep. Okay. All right. And so it's harder for, on each side, there's pros and cons to wherever you enter this, but as organizations together, we're trying to figure it out and get everybody positioned for the best fidelity we can, not just because we want to do well with fidelity, but because the better the fidelity, it's proven the better outcomes for the people that you're serving. So your job seekers have better outcomes. So the Fidelity Reviews are happening this summer at all 5 sites. I tried to pick pictures that look like Iowa in the summertime. And so reviewers, just like CARF and just like CQL, reviewers are trained practitioners from the field and from IPS organizations who will compare actual demonstrated performance to the fidelity standards to their performance to the standardized indicators, excuse me. Unlike CARF or CQL, IPS reviewers typically conduct reviews in their own state. Right now, recently I've been struggling with this because I believe in that. I like the fact that you have sustainability because you have a group of reviewers from your state who can do it. But I'm very interested in the inter-rater reliability questions that might arise. And so my concept is, and we'll see what the big researcher Gary Bond says is, but if you would bring in somebody from another state once in a while, would that help you figure out, and would there create this inter-rater reliability across the country and then maybe even internationally, right? Because I am sure that some of the issues pertinent to Iowa that we're going to focus on will have trends, right? Like we'll see the same things at every site. And then when that happens as reviewers, we'll go right there. And then will we miss something else, right? So those are the questions that I'm having about it. So this summer, our subject matter expert, her name is Sandy Reese from Oregon, and 2 Illinois reviewers are going to help us. They're going to mentor Lynn, Vienna, Tammy, myself, and hopefully Rachel and Kelly too. So we're going to try to give people get their toes wet in this review process and start to build our own team. As the IPS trainer reviewer right now, it's my job to help the organizations try to position themselves and prepare themselves for this baseline fidelity review and to work out any of the systemic issues that we might be facing to help Iowa scale up services. I have a meeting next week on June 2nd with the IHH and MCOs, because what I'm trying to do is get, when an IPS organization bills, they have some supporting documentation that must be submitted. And so Voc Rehab gets that documentation. The BR counselors get that from them when they submit billing for a milestone. But the case managers or case coordinators for the integrated health teams do not get that information because it's kept in the case file to be reviewed by the MCO. So I'm trying to figure out how can we send that information to the integrated health home care coordinators and how do they upload it so that we can demonstrate that we have an integrated health record when we have the reviewers come to Iowa. So that's kind of some of the stuff that I'm doing, which is, sort of a yawner to all of you, but exciting for me in a weird sort of way. So this is just a pretty bad screenshot of what it looks like at the ipsworks.org. They're welcoming Iowa. We know that not all Iowa is farms and windmills, but it is a really pretty picture and it's really nice to be recognized actually internationally for our work with IPS. Being part of this IPS International Learning Collaborative as the 26 states, I think there's like other countries too, like Spain, the Netherlands, New Zealand, England, Canada. It means that we're willing to report our information. So they gather employment information on a quarterly basis, and our sites will contribute to that. And then it's compiled, and that's what helps support the research and the outcomes that IPS so proudly boasts about their jobs. You know, a lot of us in Iowa have worked for a long time trying to get a system to gather employment data that is succinct, that the definitions are the same, that's not redundant, and it's not easy. It's pretty easy to talk about and whine about, but not very easy to make happen. And so hopefully this is going to help us. I have to tell you, if you're interested, we're always looking for more people to do this. There's a lot of data collection in IPS, but that data collection is important to the integrity of the evidence-based practice. So be prepared for that if you sign up. We actually launched our own Iowa IPS learning community last April. We're going to have another one, and it might not be in July like I hoped. It might be the first week in August because we have a lot of Fidelity Reviews we're scheduling around. But we try to have a speaker, and then we have the sites report out their outcomes. So it's very transparent. There are just so many things about IPS that we've all wanted to see happen in Iowa around employment, and this is going to lead the way for us, I think. The quarterly outcomes are a great way to not only celebrate our progress, but it helps us learn from each other too, right? That's the whole idea of a learning community. I actually think the coalition was probably the first Iowa learning community we ever had. On May 3rd, 4th, and May 3rd and 4th, I told you that we attended the IPS conference in Detroit. Attending that conference is part of being part of their learning community. So I hope that there's a lot more Iowans there next year. It's a real cool conference. And you know, I've gone to a lot of conferences and I typically like them all. I always learn something, but this one was very exciting for me and very personally moving too. Really cool. Lots of presentation from peers. It's just, it was great. It was just great. And I hope that many can go next year. So there's a few things that are going on here at the University of Iowa. You know, I'm a university employee now, but really I take a lot of my marching orders from the Aspire leadership team, Lynn Neblink, Mhds. So the University of Iowa Healthcare Center for Disabilities and Development was awarded a grant from Mhds to advance evidence-based practice in Iowa. Amy, you can weigh in if you know the name of this grant. I don't. Anyway, that's what they're going to do. So they're going to try to really promote supported housing, ACT, and IPS in Iowa, and they're setting up structures to do that. So they're really going to be responsible for trying to coordinate the Fidelity Reviews going forward, because Fidelity Reviews happen every year, actually, unless you're not at good Fidelity, and then they happen every 6 months. It's very much it's not a gotcha. It's a continuous quality improvement process. So that's happening for the University of Iowa. I also wanted to just put in a plug to tell people to watch for an invitation. We're really hoping to add 2 to 3 sites. Amy can keep you up to date on this later in 2022. You know, one thing that you could do as an organization is really sort of go to ipsworks.org, look at that site, and then talk to your constituents, talk to your colleagues and your mental health partners in your community, your region. See if people are excited about doing that together. It would be very, it takes collaboration to a new level to make it work. And that's exciting, and it's also agonizing at the same time, right? I mean, it sounds really good to talk about, but putting in play isn't always easy. So I can assure you that part of your application would have you talk about those sort of relationships with people. The other thing that I need to tell you is because we're scaling up, and because I'm a unretired person with a lot of outside interests. We're trying to find, we're going to post a position for a full-time IPS trainer and a reviewer. Again, Amy will be knowing when that's happening and can let people know. We're really trying to open it up and broaden people's ability to apply for the position. This first go around, you know, I was lucky because I fit the description, but we want to broaden that description. We want people with not just education, we want a lot of experience. We want a lot of enthusiasm. And so please, you know, check it out because you get to work with the same great people. I'm not trying to steal anybody when we're already having workforce development challenges, but it's an important position. And I think for the right person, it's going to be really meaningful work. I'm trying to figure out how I can keep my foot in the door and do a little part-time thing, but we'll see how that plays out. Okay, this is part of retirement. My husband and I just were in Rome, so I had to put a little picture in here. You can tell who the one who's more socially conscious. I get outside and take that mask off right away, but Tim's more careful. But anyway, are there any questions? I'm sorry you had to wait for me. I appreciate you waiting. I probably gone on a little too long.
No, that was wonderful. And just, I love that picture, by the way. Makes me want to be there with you. Thank you so much, Sherry. I really appreciate you. I appreciate how you approach this too, because it really helps fill folks in who maybe haven't been part of those earlier conversations. I know that we have some of our IPS service providers who are in the meeting today. So I don't know if there's, because we know we're gonna hopefully be expanding, is there anything, not to put you on the spot so you don't have to say anything, but is there anything you would want to share or add or you know, throw out there for folks about IPS and your experiences?
That's a great idea.
I don't know if we still have folks. I know sometimes people aren't able to stay on.
I'm just wondering, this is Kay again. I'm just wondering, is there any thought for the future to add other populations? You mentioned that IPS does serve other populations in some states. Is there any discussion of expanding it at some point in Iowa?
Is Eva still on? Eva, do you want to talk about that? Just because, I mean, we are starting where we're starting and we want to get a really firm grasp of what we're doing with people with serious mental illness, but I would hope too that they would expand sometime, but I don't know what the time frame for that will be. Amy, Vienna, other people from the leadership team?
Just to expound upon that a little bit, IPS is an evidence-based program, right? And so the research behind it has really been focused on individuals from the mental health area. And so there have been other states that have provided IPS for other areas of need. However, and they've been shown some positive outcomes for individuals with other diagnoses. However, technically it is the program was created specifically for individuals with mental health needs. With that being said, we focused on what we can do, right? First off, we didn't want to bite off more than we could chew. And since the program is designed for folks specifically in this particular area, we wanted to focus on that first. We don't know what the future brings. Obviously, if it is an opportunity to expand it to other disabilities, we would like to look into that. But at this time, we're just focusing on individuals with mental health needs.
Thanks, Vienna.
And that doesn't mean, oh, I'm sorry. That doesn't mean too that somebody might not have a dual diagnosis. So you might have somebody with an intellectual disability and chronic mental health issues, and they would be eligible for IPS, right now today. I think what Vienna's talking about is that they haven't gotten to the level to be able to say that IPS is an evidence-based practice for populations that do not include mental health. So for intellectual disability or developmental disabilities, they know it could be a promising practice. They're currently in they're currently doing research on looking at if it can move to an evidence-based practice. But officially, it's not an evidence-based practice yet. It's not to say, though, that it doesn't. I think, Sherry, you hit this on the head so well earlier, too, about just saying, here's kind of how it's different. And some of it that is just so good for anybody, regardless of type of disability, is that, that kind of, just fast engagement, and anybody who wants to work can participate, and the no exclusions, and then the partnership, taking partnership at a whole different level, that really adds some teeth, I think, because of the fidelity to the commitment of those partners to collaborate. So
exactly. I was going to say that same thing. Go as fast as you can, rule in instead of out, and collaborate, really collaborate, right? Collaborate on steroids. Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. I also wanted to just say that, Kay, the place that they're really putting a lot of effort right now is with youth, and youth with, again, mental illness, but to see how this really works for young people. That's a big focus, and there's a lot of work in New Zealand around that, especially.
Bill, did you have something to add?
Sherry, this was fabulous, and I love your energy and this topic. And it really, the part that struck me the most was on not leaving folks out, and Amy mentioned that, substance abuse and alcoholism, mental illness often coexist, and quite frankly, even without mental illness, there's a lot of functional alcoholics out there. And so it should not exclude them from working. I personally know some functional alcoholics and are good people and support their families, but hopefully we can help with that too. But I love that not being excluded. A few years ago, I attended I think it was at an APSI conference, probably the first one I went to, and it was on employment and mental illness. And one of the comments was made that there's data that will show that folks with mental illness that are employed literally live longer. And anything we can do to help that, I think, is great. But your energy in this presentation was fabulous. I just want to say that. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. It's not hard to be excited about something you buy into, right? So, but thank you very much. I appreciate that very much. And your comments were greatly appreciated as well. I mean, I think that's, IPS, I would believe that everybody on this call, if you heard an overall presentation about IPS, something would strike you very professionally and personally that would make you want to be part of this. And, as we scale up in Iowa, I look at states around us like Wisconsin, Illinois. These people have been doing it for a long time, and they really have such great results, right? And I think what happens is when you elevate employment, which many of us have been trying to do for a long time, how many years did the employment people were in the back of the room going, hey, we got something to offer here. But people, the whole Maslow thing is we got to have people be safe. They have to have housing first. They have to have their health taken care of. And I get all that. But now finally, with the social determinants of health and the MCOs come to Iowa, we've learned that employment is a really important piece of recovery for people. So it's exciting. And again, any of you who want to reach out to me, It's Sherry, SHERRY Becker at uiowa.edu. I'd love to hear from you. My cell phone is 641-430-1503. Anyway, I'm just trying to be a resource to everybody. And again, I love the point that your best resources might be the sites that are really doing it. So don't forget about your colleagues.
We'll be sure to share your contact information.
Okay,
Sherry,
perfect.
in our
Perfect.
notes,
I'd love to
too.
hear from people. Yeah.
Kate, did you have something you wanted to share?
Yeah, I was just going to share that. I mean, I too just think this is wonderful. Loved the quote from the doctor about the evidence-based thing, because employment really is the underpinning of everything that we do and that we want for our children. My son is 43, just to share a little bit, and he has worked in integrated competitive employment since he was 19. Different jobs, had, one job that was the longest where we previously lived. But being in Iowa with this employment first state that really does it,
Yeah.
has been wonderful. Was one of the first things I looked for when we were planning to move here, was that Joel could continue to work. This individual placement thing, in terms of a broader sense, not the specific program, is what it's about. He did not work during the pandemic until he was vaccinated. And now he has his dream job, because it truly is an individual placement. He loves animals, and his job developer at our, saying, this is where he wants to work, Coffee Cat in West Des Moines, where they have a cat lounge and coffee place. And his job is to do some general, janitorial things, but to also socialize the cats that are in the cat lounge waiting for adoption.
Okay, there's no better wrap up to this presentation than that story.
And so I think for anyone, it's that individual placement. What are their interests? What do they like? And of course, what don't they like? We don't want to put somebody, but I just, it's the individual placement. Those have been the successful jobs for our son. And this one is the best. I can see him hopefully retiring from Coffee Cat. Thank you.
Thank
That's
you.
wonderful, Kay. Thank you so much. I think I'm not always so good at seeing if folks have their hands up. So does anybody else have any other things they want to share, or any other announcements?
So I'm John Jerryberry. I'm with 43 North Iowa. I am one of the programs. Hi, Sherry. That gets to operate this wonderful no exclusion program. I followed Sherry's. I'm the executive director who followed after Sherry. So I'm hopefully will be out of her shadow in about 10 years. But we're so happy with this program that some of our expansion programs with our mental health that we are looking at, we won't expand unless we can figure out a way to include this program. So our mental health clients will have access to IPS and this type of evidence-based practice. So that is a huge thing for us. It's we love it. We use it to train our other programs in-house about zero exclusion and trying to get that within our culture. So if we admit someone to maybe one of our HAB homes or SEL and they're like, well, we can't do it. Sometimes we'll go, well, we have a program that can't say no. So why are you saying no? I get funny looks, but that's pushing the industry forward of how do we serve instead of being gatekeepers of how we can't serve. And so that's huge for us, and we can base everything off of that. We're hoping to expand staff here soon in Cerro Gordo County in IPS. Super excited to kind of carry on the work that Sherry and her team started when they ran the pilot program years ago. I have to head to another meeting, but if anyone who is interested in bringing it to their program wants to come visit us, we're an open book. Full support of this, love it. Can't wait for other people to adopt it and move forward with that zero exclusion, which I really hope eventually becomes the standard in most programs, which is if someone wants services, the answer is yes, not no. So Sherry, as always, super professional presentation. Look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks. I think you're coming our way.
I am.
I got pictures of my little girls. They're big now, so I'm sure you'll want to see them. But thank you all for the information today. I super appreciate it. But I just wanted to put a plug in that if you want to hear from someone running it, I will sing the same praises that Sherry does from the state level.
Thanks, John.
Thank you so much, John. That's wonderful. We can share John's contact information as well if he doesn't mind in our notes. Other folks who have any comments or questions or updates?
Does this meeting, is it supposed to be over at noon? Did I take you way over time, or does it run till 12:30?
It goes till 12:30.
Oh, okay, then I don't.
Yeah,
then I
no,
don't
it was
feel bad.
perfect.
Okay, I was just
We
like
need-
squirming around.
We need every meeting to have, you know, like 3 other presenters not show up, and then we wouldn't run out of time. It's really quite delightful to be able to have some time for engagement. You know, it's been a hard shift for us to go from 5-hour meetings to 2.5-hour virtual meetings. But anyway, I really appreciate Sherry, the presentation, and we're actually early right now. So if nobody has anything else that they want to share, I just want to thank you all so much for taking time to join us today and for the engagement, which is what is the best part of any coalition meeting. Hopefully you'll be able to attend our August 25th meeting, maybe in person in Des Moines, 10 to 3. We'll let you know when it gets closer. It might also be virtual, and that would be 10 to 12:30 then. And then our November 17th meeting is going to be virtual for sure, and it's 10 to 12:30 as well. So please reach out to us if you have anything you want to share, any questions, comments, recommendations. If you have things you want to put on the coalition meeting agendas, we're happy to be responsive to anything that you have and include presenters if you want to present on something. But thank you so much, everybody. I'd like to close with thanking Julie Beckett, and she will be missed. She's made a huge impact in all of our lives. So thank you, Julie. Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Have a
you.
great
Thanks for
day.
having me. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Happy Memorial Day.